A friend said, "Come along with me." I said, "No, I'm not." But she kept bothering me, and my husband said, "For goodness sake, go with her and stop her worrying." So I went with her, and that was the best day's work I ever did. A WI member, 1919. Not every woman in the countryside joined her WI, but for those who did, it probably presented the only opportunity for them to socialize outside the home and to learn about life beyond their immediate environs. Edith Jones was one such woman. She described her village in the early part of the 20th century. Life in the truly rural areas could be rather humdrum before the motor transport came into its own. Some of us lived 10 to 12 miles from the market town and 3 to 5 miles from the nearest railway station, depending on where our houses were situated. We were in a scattered area, mostly farmers and connected with farm work, and the women had a full-time job in the home, for there was no electricity nor piped water or any other modern convenience, and everything was made at home. We seemed to have little time or cause to visit our next village unless it was for a fresh sitting of eggs in the spring, or a jar or two of honey in the autumn ready for winter colds. The menfolk generally managed the cattle auctions, touching each other for a lift in the farmers' gigs, but if the farmer's wife went too, they knew they'd have to be sober to touch a ride back. Edith married John Cecil, Jack, Jones, on the 10th of July, 1914, less than a month before the outbreak of the First World War. They moved to Red House Farm in Smethcote as tenant farmers, with milking cows, sheep and poultry on some 60 acres. It was not a large farm even in those days, and they had little money. They milked morning and evening with the help of Jack Middleton, who lived nearby in Picklescote. Jack was an ex-soldier of the Great War. He never married but lived with his elderly mother and earned his living by catching rabbits and working for Mr. Jones, earning 5 shillings for 8 hours' work, Edith noted. The cows came into the milking ship-on opposite the house to be milked, but that building had no water, so the cows had to be driven down to the pond at the end of the farmyard to drink after milking. In addition to the cattle and sheep, there were Edith's chickens, of which she was extremely fond. She sold eggs at the farm gate as well as taking them into Shrewsbury Market on Saturdays. When there were tasks on the farm, such as caring for sick animals, Edith invariably helped out. She wrote about drenching and hand-feeding a calf that was poorly. For 3 days she looked after it, but she wrote, "At 1:45 on Saturday morning the calf died. The men buried it. It had tried hard to rally." Although she was clearly touched by the calf's death, Edith was unsentimental about animals. Farming was a way of life, and there would always be deaths as well as births in the countryside. Jack Jones was a quiet man committed to his farm and the community. A rural district councillor who also served as a church warden, he was a regular pallbearer at funerals. He went to market weekly to buy or sell stock, and he enjoyed the quiet life of the country with its seasonal rhythms. His wife was different. Edith was extraordinarily industrious and gifted at turning her hand to mending and making almost anything. She was also an avid reader, and despite her busy life as a farmer's wife, would try to set aside an amount of time each afternoon to reading or studying. She loved the wireless and used to note programs that she had listened to in her diaries. In March 1938 she wrote, "Sowed antirrhinums and sweet peas in boxes. Listened to the parliamentary discussion on the unrest in Central Europe." 6 months later, Chamberlain returned from Munich. "The European Peace Pact was signed. May it be a lasting pact for our good. War has threatened and been hanging over us, and the relief when peace was declared was immense." That year, on Armistice Day, she remained hopeful. "Nice morning. I gather and clear up wood under yew trees. chop some, then Len comes and finishes them. There is now a good supply in the shed, and it looks tidy. We keep the 2-minute silence and feel thankful for peace in the country.